2 weeks of commercial-free music, plus sports, news, comedy, talk, and entertainment for free. Tune in now and get that feeling that starts with H and ends with happy.
The SiriusXM free listening event now through December 2nd. Hit the SAT button on your inactive satellite radio to listen now. Learn more at SiriusXM.com/listen free. SiriusXM, Road Happy. Not available on select radios.
This is Charles Osgood. There are a lot of complicated things in life, rocket science, taxes, and tying a bow tie. But insurance does not have to be one of those complicated things. Your local independent agency representing auto owners insurance will sit down and customize a plan just for you. So instead of trying to muddle through it all online yourself, contact your local independent auto owners agency. Auto owners insurance, they're no problem, people.
In Rome, call Burgess Insurance Services of Rome at 706-234-5680.
The nation's top diplomat is trying his hand at ending the wave of Palestinian-Israeli violence. CBS's Robert Berger has the story from Jerusalem.
Secretary of State John Kerry is meeting with Israeli and Palestinian leaders amid a 2-month surge of deadly violence.
I'm here today to talk about the ways that we can work together to push back against terrorism and to restore calm.
Kerry condemned a wave of Palestinian attacks, saying Israel has a right and obligation to defend itself. Robert Berger, CBS News, Jerusalem.
A controversial trial has opened at the Vatican. 2 journalists, a Monsignor and 2 lay people, are charged in connection with the publication of 2 books that used confidential information to detail alleged financial mismanagement and corruption by church officials. If they're convicted, the defendants could be sentenced to as much as 8 years in jail. Frank Sedapani, CBS News.
You give us 12 minutes and 40 seconds, we'll give you Chattanooga and the world.
News Talk 1240. Live from Chattanooga, Tennessee, it's Nooganomics with David Tulis.
City Council member Yusuf Hakim and others are promoting a very good idea, and that is banning the box. Banning the box is a means whereby a person with a criminal record, perhaps a prison sentence or a guilty plea and a suspended sentence, can say that he can say later in the process that he does have a criminal record and does not have to put that fact, or she does not have to put that fact on the very front end of the application process, which ruins the chances of being hired. And as Mr. Hakim and others are promoting this event that has been for some time here in Chattanooga boosted by the NAACP, we are under the gun in another way. That gun, of course, the application gun, is the record of the prison industrial complex, which besmirches the prospects of thousands and thousands of Tennesseans, and no doubt hundreds of Chattanoogans. While that struggle is going on here on the ground above us today, in the skies over Hamilton County, is a sign of government prudence and providence. And this sign is a 9th day of stratospheric aerosol geoengineering, which is not the sunny weather that the weather forecast gave me as I was driving into our studio here in Hickson. We are not having a sunny day today. We are having a vexed sky, a sky envenomed, if you will, made venomous, made noxious by the good people who have brought us the prison industrial complex, who have brought us inflation, who have brought us the medium of exchange, the dollar that does not keep its value and is an unreliable medium of exchange, the people who have brought us the welfare state, and now the reactive anti-terror state as well here on the ground with heightened warnings. And in fact, today I'm going to be posting an essay about why the threat of terrorism is one more argument for local economy. You got it. Local economy and the free market. And it works like this. As Duke Kumbelich is going to tell us, if you are a localist, if you're a Nooga-centric person, as I am, you'll tend to favor local over national. You'll tend to favor venues that are small, cozy, out of the way, not important, not big. A terror strike in Chattanooga, if a faithful Muslim designs to plan one today, will more likely happen in a centralized location with name brands. And that is because an attack on Walmart is something that has an oomph, you might say a marketing oomph for the Muslim theory that an attack on Bueller's Market downtown wouldn't have. There is a different flavor entirely. And so you can attack the nation of the infidel by striking a blow at a national brand in a major venue. Now, that's not going to happen at the locally owned lube store. Okay, it's not, but it might happen at a nationally owned lube chain or a nationally owned tire store. But it's not going to hit Northgate Tire, right? But it could hit if someone was really ambitious and wanted to, we might say, roll with his Muslim theory. It would be against a national player. And I'll let you supply the name for that one. I don't want to give anybody ideas. And local economy is a defense against many things. It's a defense against the rationalism, the extraordinary rationalism of the modern welfare state, the modern nation state. And that nationalism and that superiority is in view here on the ground. And also, as I'm saying, in the skies over Hamilton County. And that is geoengineering, stratospheric aerosol geoengineering, which is a blight. I would like to say, because I'm concerned about you, my listener, and your wife and your children, and the school bus driver, and the teacher who stands outside in the playground during recess, that these people breathing the noxious air deposited, and you might say made noxious by these jet overflights, are prospective victims. But the damage to people on the ground who inhale the leavings of the geoengineering program is slow. It is very slow. It takes a lot of time. And some people have immunity to the aluminum, strontium, and barium that's being deposited on the specks, which are said by Raymond Herndon, the San Diego scientist whose work is being disputed by the good people, contains coal fly ash. Discussed, I don't know if it's discussed obliquely, at least in a recent page C1 or business section front about the coal industry and TVA, which burns tens of thousands of tons of coal every year and has millions of tons of coal fly ash and bottom ash, as well, in storage ponds and behind dikes, unprotected, non-lined ponds around the South in the seven-state area served by that utility. And look up in the sky. Ask yourself: is what you're seeing normal? Is what you're seeing mere contrails? Contrails are water vapor, and they form. You make a little bit of a contrail on a cold morning that's damp. When you breathe out, you can see the little plume that comes out of your mouth. But you've never had the experience where, as you walk along, the plume trails behind you, right, for 100 feet. That does not happen. It dissipates pretty quickly. What's happening over Chattanooga and Hamilton County is the environmental story of the two decade. I say it's the biggest environmental story of the past 20 years here in Chattanooga. We've had many others covered by Pam Sohn, the now editorialist at the Chattanooga Times Free Press, covering TVA, pollution, and the green movement, and others. These all are, I would say, minor accounts, minor narratives. The environmentalists, which are delighted to get press releases out to generate stories in the press about nuclear energy or the Clean Water Act or the Clean Air Act, and utility violations there too, largely have ignored this story. But I've been paying attention to it since March of last year in my first report on it, and prompted by a remarkable May blizzard downtown. That blizzard that followed one day after a major, as it's called, chemtrailing operation over the city in blue skies, where there were streaks and tattoos, very remarkable treatment over the skies on a very warm day. The next day there was a short sleeve shirt day. And the next day there was a blizzard downtown. This is a picture of human manipulation of the weather. You might say of intervention of the good people into a system which they cannot really control, but which they can largely influence. My name is David Tulis. We are here at AM 1240 Hot News Talk Radio. We are the station that carries Colin Cowherd. Colin Cowherd is a major voice in sports, and his show is every day now here at AM 1240 from at noon. And well, actually, he's just after Keon Rose, our local sports guy from Keon is 1 to 2, and Colin Cowherd is, well, let me just tell you, he's on in the afternoon. Okay, so if you like sports, the biggest name in sports in the United States is this gentleman, this man who's a model reporter and a model analyst in the sports world. We have him here at AM 1240 Hot News Talk Radio. That's Colin Cowherd. And if you're not a sports person, as I am not, then you might think, well, that is a very odd name for a notable star. But he's very well known by the man, my listener, who follows sports. So let him know that it is here only at AM 1240 Hot News Talk Radio. We're the station whose slogan is "Love Your Neighbor and Buy Local." We are loco-centrists, and dare I say, Nooga-centric. We are Nooga-centrists, and hopefully we're also Christocentrists and constitutionocentrists. We have the idea that the center of things should be gracious and liberal, and we are the liberal station in Chattanooga. Now I say liberal because I'm a classical liberal, and I must say I have talked with people whom have been thrown by my usage of that word. I met a writer yesterday in making sales calls, a man who used to write for the Pulse, who covered music, and he called himself a socialist, and he said, I'm one of those dreamy socialists who I like all the programs of socialism, but I'm not quite sure who's going to pay for it. And he admitted that. And I said, well, that you're a progressive liberal. I'm a classical liberal. I'm the one who wants restraint on the modern state. You are the one who wants to empower the modern state to bring about all these good things in your liberal program, right? He was not puzzled by my comment about being a classical liberal, though other people have been. Other people who are not really attuned to the shape of ideas and where they come from. When they think that David Tulis is a liberal, they say, well, that I'd not heard of that before. But in fact, we are a pro-government radio station. And I'm a classical liberal. Okay, a classical liberal. That is to say, free market. We are for the free market, and we are suspicious of the good people. And I'm just very suspicious of the good people today over the skies of Chattanooga and Hamilton County. We are being badly damaged. There's a former pilot who is quoted at geoengineeringwatch.org. And by the way, if you want to read my latest post, it was Saturday about the envenoming of the skies over Chattanooga, with many pictures just like the ones you're going to see today. Now, I want you to go out, when you go out and driving somewhere today, look up at the sky. Ask yourself, why is it yellow? Just ask yourself, why, if it's just condensation, do the trails drip? If you notice that, they because of the nozzles which eject or inject aerosolized coal fly ash into the air. It is a product. Of course, it's recycling, right? You could be enthusiastic about it being recycling, but it is a national security matter, because as we've heard, the war on global warming is more important than the war on terror, right? That means extraordinary measures are required and expected. And if they're secret, well, it's okay. They're secret. They're not publicized. And we have trained the American people to by our media, famously said to be run by 6 major corporations. We have trained our people in Chattanooga and elsewhere in the hinterlands to pay no attention to things that matter. Dane Wakington, writing at geoengineeringwatch.org, just by the way, quotes a former pilot, Willem Felderhoff, and he says, I was mostly shocked by the fact that there is no uprising under the pilots and the meteorologists whose job it is to observe, analyze, study, and anticipate on weather phenomena like cloud formation, structure, and dynamics. In other words, he's talking about the Paul Barrises of Chattanooga who look up at the sky today and see nothing, right? There's nothing happening today. And we just have to, David Carnes will look up and he'll just go about his business. Nothing is special today, though it is the 9th day, not the 9th consecutive day, but the 9th day of November that the good people have been busy. Felderhoff is a former commercial pilot and he's a whistleblower, and he has the video and you can view it at geoengineeringwatch.org. He says, like many of us, I dream of a simple life in harmony with nature. Apparently, to fulfill that dream, we have to fight for it like never before. He says we all have to step out of our box and act and do things we prefer not to do. It is easier to do that when we realize that it is about the future of our children and Mother Earth. Notice he is one of those great harmonizers of the self-created being and the self-created Earth. One not obviously created by God, right? Somehow it exists of its own volition. He says, in order to stop insanity at work, we have to wake up our inner warrior, and so on. So he's a man who's very upset at the toxic clouds, yellow today over Chattanooga and dripping with aerosol particulate, which contains hazardous materials. Coal flash is not a hazardous material of itself, not regulated that way under the statute for the Clean Air Act, but it is nonetheless containing of hazardous materials, namely aluminum, strontium, and barium. There is toxicity there. Now, toxicity is found on the ground at Target. Target is a national chain that is strongly endorsed, according to Peter LaBarbera, who operates the group Americans for Truth About Homosexuality. Target is pumping the Equality Act, is H.R. 3185 or Senate Bill 1858. You can call it the Homosexual Superiority Act or the Criminalizing Christianity Act. It is a champion. The store chain is a champion of anti-Christian bigotry by equating any defense of biblical morality and marriage with hate, and wants to make it a shameful. It makes shameful comparisons between cross-dressing men using female restrooms and the Jim Crow laws of the old South, which Peter LaBarbera says persecuted Black Americans. This statute is a radical homosexual transgender act, and Target, according to the Human Rights Campaign, Target proudly stands with the lug butt community through all that we do, from our partnerships with organizations like the Human Rights Campaign, HRC, to our volunteer efforts, and even the products we sell. Wait, that is a statement from Target itself. That is a Target statement, not from the Human Rights Campaign. We want to be a champion for an inclusive society, Target says, by using our influence and resources to support equality in communities where our team members and guests live and work. So if you're a customer at Target, you are a guest, and this company, this national chain, which is siphoning capital and profits out of Chattanooga, it is a kind of corporate colonialist, is in favor of the lug butt. Some say it's a tyranny. Some say that to impose equality by law is a tyranny. It is a despotism. The Poofter Group Human Rights Campaign says Target is helping to lead the fight against discrimination by putting its support behind the Equality Act. Discrimination has no place in the workplace, and Target is demonstrating to all that inclusion is a pillar of any successful business. And that's a quote from HRC President Chad Griffin. The time has come for full federal equality. Notice that there is a federal solution. And HRC is proud to include Target as a partner in this fight. This is David Tulis, and I have got a caller. Caller, what's on your mind? Well, the story about the Human Rights Campaign praising of this pro-gay chain is that everyone should have a fair chance to earn a living, provide for their families, and to live free from fear of discrimination, including Americans who are, okay, get the list now of lug butt backers who are to have lives free of fear and discrimination. Lesbian, gay, bisexual, and transgender. But of course, Christians and even Muslims who pretendedly oppose homosexuality, they are not to have any toleration at all. They are not to be free from discrimination. When you have a statute that says how people are to think and to act, is that not perhaps a form of discrimination? We are here at AM 1240 Hot News Talk Radio, and I did mention to you that Ban the Box is being pushed by City Councilman Yusuf Hakim. He says it's so unfortunate that people have been turned away so many times they don't believe they can get a job. This is David Tulis. Caller, you're on the air.
Yeah, I know you don't have a lot of time. Great show. You know, the queer culture is starting to permeate wholesome foods. There was a Campbell's commercial on the other night, and Star Wars is out. You see the one picture of the man with his kids going, "I'm your father," Darth Vader voice, and then it pans to another man saying, "No, I'm your father." So, I mean, I love these subliminal messages. Everyone's on the queer bandwagon. And my question is, this couple in Indiana that refused to make a cake for a gay couple, or homosexual couple, what if the KKK walks in and says, "I want a cake showing a black person being hanged. Will you make that cake for me?" And they go into a black couple that bakes cakes. Do they have to bake that cake for the KKK group showing a black person getting hanged? Because if they can force a Christian to do a cake for homosexuals, that they can force that too. Thanks.
Or they can have a man coming into a Jewish bakery where the name Stein is attached to various names of the owners and the people behind the counter, and say something to the effect of, "Well, I would like to have a cake promoting my view of historical revisionism, which says that there was no Nazi extermination policy, and that the people who died in Treblinka and the other camps died of typhus and not of either execution or gassings." And what kind of response would the Jewish baker, Mr. Stein, have to that? And should he be forced to bake that cake? And the answer is no. Only Christians who object to the poofter theory are the ones subjected to this sort of strangulatory, regulatory friendliness. This is David Tulis.
You give us 12 minutes and 40 seconds, we'll give you Chattanooga and the world.
News Talk 1240.
After another cold and frosty start, a really nice day for your Tuesday. A little warmer later on with lots of sun, highs upper 50s. Tonight, not as cold, lows lower to middle 30s. For Wednesday, mostly sunny. Warm up continues, highs of around 60. Continue dry and pleasant through Thanksgiving. Cold nights are back, so keep you and your family toasty warm all winter with Dodge City Ski Shop, featuring the largest selection of cold weather clothing around at Dodge City, East Brainerd Road, Chattanooga. And I'm 1412 Chief Meteorologist Patrick Hoare on AM 1240 Hot News Talk Radio.
You give us 12 minutes and 40 seconds, we'll give you Chattanooga and the world.
News Talk 1240. Celebrate the holidays with cheer at Basement Bargain Prices at One Stop Package in the Sunrise Market Center, Sunny Daisy. The brand new One Stop Package beverage store on Old Dayton Pike, just north of the Thrasher Light, with the best prices in town. Enjoy the lowest prices on beer, wine, liquor, and soft drinks. Hey, mention you heard this ad on Hot News Talk Radio and get 5% off your purchase. That's right. Mention you heard this on the radio and you'll get 5% off. The brand new One Stop Package beverage store in Sunny Daisy. Their prices are always the lowest prices in town. The lowest prices you'll find in the finest of adult beverages. The brand new One Stop Package in South Sunny Daisy at the Sunrise Market, featuring great prices on gas, bread, and milk. The Sunrise Market just across from Charlie's in Sunny Daisy. And remember, always drink responsibly.
Get 10% off every case of wine. The Fed raising rates, China's economy in trouble. Don't let headlines derail your long-term financial strategy. I'm Edward Jones financial advisor Patrick Neal. At Edward Jones, we provide the tools for a reasoned, disciplined approach to investing. Stop by my office next to the Target Shopping Center in Hickson or call me at 423-870-7894. That's Patrick Neal at 870-7894. Edward Jones, making sense of investing. Member SIPC.
You have an event coming up for the holidays, or maybe it is your daughter's wedding, or maybe just a church or office party, then you need to select Choo Choo Barbecue. That's correct. Choo Choo Barbecue. Whether you like pork, chicken, or beef. Oh, yes. Choo Choo Barbecue with their savory rub flavor. Oh, my goodness. It's making me hungry right now. You add in their delicious smoked aroma, and you have set the table for a perfect meal with Choo Choo Barbecue. That's right. Choo Choo Barbecue. Why don't you give them a call right now? 423-843-9554. That's 843-9554. Call 423-843-9554. Choo Choo Barbecue. You know where it's located, off of Hickson Pike, right there at the Valley Brook area. Don't kid yourself. Your stomach is already on the way.
You feel better outside your home or business than in? Indoor air quality is important. Mildew, mold, smoke, water, and rodent damage are prime causes of poor indoor air quality. Ducts, Indoor Air Professionals, better known as Duct Busters, cleans HVAC systems using 127 definable Duct Busters steps. Let Mark Thompson address the indoor air quality at your business to help reduce employee illnesses. Prevent fires by cleaning your dryer vents. Mark and his parents, Dick and Joan Thompson, have been building our local economy and helping local people with HVAC systems 16 years. Ducts, Indoor Air Professionals. Call 876-9907. 876-9907. Ducks. Call now.
You give us 12 minutes and 40 seconds, we'll give you Chattanooga and the world.
News Talk 1240.
Fox News Radio. I'm Chris Foster. NATO is holding an emergency meeting called by one of our allies, Turkey, after its pilots shot down a Russian military jet. Fox's Jennifer Griffin.
According to U.S. officials, the Russian Su-24 was warned at least 3 times by the Turks to get out of their airspace. The Russian Defense Ministry is denying that the Russian plane crossed into Turkey.
A Syrian rebel group says one Russian pilot is dead, the other captured. In Minneapolis,
5 people were shot last night near the site of an ongoing protest. None of the wounds are life-threatening. About 150 people were protesting the fatal shooting of a black man by a city cop just over a week ago. Police say he was shot when he tried to interfere with paramedics who were helping an assault victim.
Fox's Kelly Wright. Cops are looking for 3 suspects. Monday Night Football. New England beats Buffalo 2013 to stay undefeated. Fox News.
You give us 12 minutes and 40 seconds, we'll give you Chattanooga and the world.
News Talk 1240.
Live from Chattanooga, Tennessee, it's Nooganomics with David Tulis.
My theory is one of obliquity. Fighting by indirection rather than squarely fighting the enemy. Well, first of all, I guess the question is, who's the enemy and what is the nature of the fight? I think the fight is against the free Chattanooga, the free Hamilton County resident, the man who wants to be free and independent, who wants to have self-government, who likes you might say, traditional virtues, or perhaps better Christian virtues. That man is facing the opposition, not so much of the marketplace as I'm thinking of it right now, but of those who would be God over him, and those are people in the modern state, the welfare state, the surveillance state, the warfare state. And by obliquity, we don't fight that claim against us, because that is what it is. It is a kind of a lien against our estates. We don't fight it directly. We fight it indirectly. We don't fight it by voting for Republicans. Okay, that is not how that it takes place. We don't fight it necessarily by being part of the tax protest movement or the patriot movement necessarily. And I don't think we find it by by necessarily protesting police tactics or police state tactics necessarily. Those things are all good. They have their place. But I think on the whole, if you, my listener, are the average guy not involved in anything really exciting, well, what do we do? Okay, and that's what I'm trying to get to here at AM 1240 Hot News Talk Radio. In the show, struggling to be number one, but far from it. Right, I've got intense competition now, especially since we have Colin Cowherd on my station. There's no way I can be number one with him, the leading sports analyst on I think in the world. His name is Colin Cowherd, and he is here at 1:00. Well, actually, he's here at noon. We're here at noon. Then we have a double helping of sports. Just by the way. After Colin Cowherd at noon, we've got Clutch with Keon Rose, a double helping of mashed potatoes, just like what you get at Wimpy's, right? Wimpy's restaurant in Saudi Daisy, the same good fare here at AM 1240 Hot News Talk Radio. But what is the theory of obliquity? Obliquity says we come at things obliquely, at an angle. We don't come at things directly. And Christianity is much the same way. How does Christianity fight the Roman Empire? Well, it doesn't. How does Christianity throw aside legions of helmeted centurions and the 100 men under them? Well, it doesn't. It yields. It is the open city, the kind of open city that Switzerland during World War II said it would have if attacked by the Germans. The Germans did not attack Switzerland. They realized it would have been impossible to conquer that country. The government and the army would have gone into the mountains, into many secure hideaways, and fought on. But the cities would have been declared open, and that is what Christianity does. It declares the open city, and it wins not by conquest, not by the 87th Airborne Division swooping in, but by the subtlety of conversation, the subtlety of meals at table. And that is the theory of obliquity. And that's why there's a story at TV3, no, our affiliate, TV12 by Bill Mitchell. And I think you can see the same story possibly at the Chattanooga Times-Free Press website, or maybe in the today's editions. I've not looked through today's editions, but I believe I saw a story online about the Causeway One Table free Thanksgiving dinner held yesterday downtown, as Bill Mitchell accounts for it. That is that feast where people gave away a meal and served meal on a cold day. It was sunny, but cold. That is part of the theory of obliquity. How does Chattanooga resist federal tyranny? How does it resist the police state that President Obama and the Republicans combined want to have for us to protect us, right? How do we live? How can we be made to live in fear according to their straits? But how, as we look at the Causeway meal, how do we live in the open? How do we live openly and have conversation across the table? Rob Bettis is a board member and is interviewed by Bill Mitchell. He says, this is One Table, and the second annual One Table event. And the goal for One Table is for our city, like most cities, for the most part, is segmented. Again, we have kind of sentence fragments here that don't quite read together. And the goal for One Table is for our city, ... like most cities, for the most part, is segmented. And so all come together and share a meal together. So that's not, I'm not sure where the grammar is in that syntax, but he's saying that we're segmented, we're divided, but here we can lay things aside. You may have seen on a YouTube video of people, of a individual who's sitting on a box in an open square, and he is offering, and she is offering free staring. And what happens is people sit down opposite this person and they just look into each other's eyes. We'll look into your eyes, and you look into mine and I'll look into yours, and we can blink, we can do that, but we don't divert our gaze to the passing scene or to the pretty girl or the child with the stroller. We don't look at anything passing. We just look at into the eye of the person sitting opposite us. And it was perhaps an experiment, but what people found was that there was a remarkable identification that occurred by just looking into someone else's eyes. Many things that fall aside. The atheism of one and the Christianity of the other. The loathsome sex life of one and the innocence and virginity, perhaps, of the other. The abusive home situation of one and the loving, tender caresses at home of the other. These things are there, and they're kind of hidden, and they're not revealed, but they are part of that person's soul. They make up that person's soul, damaged or fruitful. And two people look at each other and not exchanging words, just looking. And there's something very beautiful about that. You may have seen the video. Well, sitting at table across downtown yesterday was something like that. Sarah Hooper, co-owner of Dish to Pass Catering, says, we get a stipend from Causeway to help us pay for the food, but the rest is a donation on our part for our labor and our time. It usually takes us about a week to prepare. That's Sarah Hooper talking with Bill Mitchell of our, I'm sorry, Bill Mitchell is not our affiliate, but, well, wait. Yeah, he is, CBS News, the CBS television station. Rob Bettis goes on to say, and we kind of view that as a kind of historical meeting of sharing a meal, the intimacy, the relational aspect of that. We want people from all walks of life to get together and to give thanks for our city. Of course, I would say on Thanksgiving, though it's not a religious holiday, it is intended initially to give credit to God for the things that God has provided, and that would be for the city. God has provided a city, Chattanooga, Helena County. And you, my listener, you may be from a far place just traveling through here, but your town too has the same concept. God gives people a city. He gives people each other, even though on one hand, you may have the libertarian, classical liberal David Tulis. On the other hand, you have Lana Sutton, the journalist, the kind of left-wing journalist, very inhospitable to people like me. And in fact, I was banned by Lana Sutton and people like her. Nonetheless, we can look at each other in the face. And in the video that I saw on YouTube, people broke down and wept just looking into the other person's eyes. And there's something, again, that's an identification of soul to soul. And we know that we're creatures, right? We were created by God with a soul. And somehow just looking, and more so with eating, there is that, you might say, an interpenetration, a sort of mutuality that is found in the gazes one with the other. And the table is that, of course, in Christianity, you have the Lord's Supper, in which God invites people who are his enemies, people who hate him, people who recognize that they hate him and are sorry for it and repented, and who are his children. And they sit down at a table, and that's called, of course, the Lord's Supper, also called Holy Communion. And that is something that Target doesn't understand. Target, with its lug butt advocacy, it's favoring a tyrannical federal statute that it compels people to appreciate each other. Target, a corporation, has no soul. It doesn't have a body. It doesn't have a backside which you can kick. Because it's a corporation, it doesn't have a backside, and you can't give it the boot. And so it acts in this rational fashion, entirely apart from humanity. And that's why, you might say, well, David, are you going to tell me I shouldn't shop at Target? Well, no, I'm not going to say that. You can figure that out yourself. You can figure that out yourself. And that's because I work by the theory of obliquity, right? I don't tell you who to vote for, and I don't tell you what to do. But I do want to make a suggestion about going out to eat today. You do need to go to Choo Choo Barbecue. Choo Choo Barbecue, and have your event catered. Okay, it's getting late. Have Choo Choo cater your event, maybe Friday. Maybe you're going to have an office party next week. Choo Choo Barbecue would love to take care of you. The best chicken, pork, and beef barbecue in the city. This is Hickson, the Hickson Choo Choo Barbecue. 870-7894. That's 870-7894. And speaking of particulars, I'm not too oblique on another point either. And that is, if you need financial advice, get it from Patrick Neal. Patrick Neal is an Edward Jones financial advisor. Edward Jones is the largest privately held brokerage house in the country, and its people are not under pressure to churn accounts. Okay, there's not that kind of pressure. There is a scrupulous care of fiduciary duty to make you, my listener, prosper, and you'll prosper better with Patrick Neal. Do call Patrick and contact him. Make sure you tell him that you heard about him from David Tulis. That's me. You write my name down if you want to, just to pass reference to him. 870-7894. 870-7894. Caller, you're on the air. What's on your mind?
David, along the lines of Target, I'd like to hear your opinion on refusing to obey. And it goes along the line of with Romans, obey your government. And if you read into that further, it must be a Christian-based system. And the majority of Christians in this country, I believe, that they refuse to obey and agree and refuse to have language taken over, that's a win. And it goes to the extent of, I had an argument with a principal the other day at school with political correctness, and I said I will never teach my daughters that a man and a man or a woman and a woman can marry, ever, in a million years. And if we take that position, the other side loses. So how important is it not to obey who they think are your masters? And I'll listen on the radio.
Well, this caller, I think, knows me somewhat and knows that we here at AM 1240 Hot News Talk Radio are very much pro-government, which means that we believe, in self-government, and we believe also in constitutional government. And we believe that government has the civil magistrate, if you will, has a duty to God, and those who are servants of the magistracy of, you might say, the ministry of the sword, have an obligation to God for the proper use of that sword, and they cannot abuse it. There is no separation of personal responsibility from one's acts, even as a professional, right? So if you're a professional and you are imposing lawlessness and violence upon innocent people, whether through civil asset forfeiture or using certain punches and holds against someone you're arresting, whether you're tasing a teenager to death, whether you're beating a woman in a summer dress because she's making a cell phone call or doing a text message while she's driving. These are things for which God holds you personally responsible. So what about the listener? What about resistance? What about saying no and defiance? Well, yes. Now, this is a kind of a fine point, and I don't know that I can do it justice in a minute here, but you are not bound by lawless acts, okay? You, my listener, are not bound by lawless laws, lawless impositions, lawless claims upon your duty, your money, your actions. But what makes a law lawless? What makes a demand lawless? Well, A, is it written in the statute? And B, does the claim against you violate God's law? Well, some claims are require you to violate God's commands, summarized in the Ten Commandments, and these you must disobey. You must disobey them. Now, other laws that are lawless, I think you disobey because you want to insist on the rule of law. And John Whitehead, the constitutional attorney, actually makes this point at LouRockwell.com today. His essay is about France, and he says, he's talking about the lessons that we've learned. I do recommend LouRockwell.com, by the way. And if you believe in the rule of law is not what Hillary Clinton says, okay? It's not what George Bush says. It's not what President Obama says. What they mean by rule of law is the rule of our law, not the rule of the law. The law is common law, the law of the land. It's also constitutional law, and it's any lawfully enacted statute or regulation. And above all, judging all these laws, of course, is the law of God. Now, the law of God does not require us to have a federal republic. It allows for democracies, though they probably are very short-lived. It allows for monarchies. It allows for dictatorships. You can have a dictatorship that honors the law of God. You really can. But a dictatorship is not ideal, and it's really probably not suited to a free people whose lives, in larger and larger extent, come to reflect God's way of doing things, right? And that would be a holier society. Holier societies, those more obedient to God's laws than those that are not, tend to have more liberty, which means they would tend toward a more Republican, more democratic, more federated form of government, somewhat like what we have here, at least on paper, or somewhat like that which runs the cantons in Switzerland with their very weak central authority called the federal government. It is the Helvetic Confederation is indeed a federal republic, probably at least in its living organic form, maybe more effective than ours, because the central government is very weak and very non-interventionist, right? Because the Swiss are the party of neutrality, and that's what we should be. We should be like the Swiss, not warmongering, not meddling, not seeking our way over others who have no duty to us at all. but they have duty to their own people, their own tongues, their own cultural backgrounds. But here we come along saying, well, you've got a duty to us, and you've got to do what we say. Whitehead says, do not turn your country into a battlefield, your citizens into enemy combatants, and your law enforcement officers into extensions of the military. And that is what's happening now. A standing army. Why do I say, and why do you, my listener, say with me that that soldiers who are in recruiting stations for Marines and soldiers who are at the services center along Namagola Highway shouldn't be armed? Well, they shouldn't be armed because we're not under occupation, right? We want them to be unarmed. Why? Because they are in the states. They have no military authority in the states at all. They have none, right? They are impotent, meaning having no power in Tennessee. They have no power here. And that's what we want. We want that to be recognized. And we have that recognized by them being unarmed and disarmed and not equipped with weapons because we are at peace. We are not under occupation. Are we? Are we under occupation? Whitehead says a standing army is something that propelled the early colonialists into revolution, strips the citizenry of any vestige of freedom. How can there be any semblance of freedom when there are tanks in the streets, military encampments in cities, Black Hawk helicopters, and armed drones patrolling overhead? It was for this reason that those who established America vested control of the military in a civilian government with a civilian commander-in-chief. That's, of course, President Obama. And we don't want to have this this submission. Submission has to be part of what they want, of course, for them to succeed at the lowest cost. But submission is not something we should grant. Okay, we shouldn't grant submission. And saying no is part of that. Saying no is part of that. And Whitehead in this prescient essay has a good summary, and war that we've had has already cost us 4.4 trillion paper dollars, direct payments of 1.6 trillion, and we don't want what is being promised to us by the continuing war against unknown parties in the Mideast, because it is making us a submissive and watched society. And I know that grates against you, and it doesn't come naturally for you to do. And so the question, I'm not answering the caller's question, but the question is, do we submit always? And the answer is, in some respects we have to submit, but in others we don't. And how to know when that is I'm going to leave it to your discretion. But generally the civil magistrate is there for good. And he has a duty. He's always going to be there. And there are two main ministries apart from the family: the ministry of grace, that's the church, and then there is the ministry of the sword. That's what we have today is the state, but it would be called also the magistrate who is the judge, who oppresses rapists, murderers, and inflationists, and who encourages and protects the property of the innocent. He protects marriage by suppressing homosexuality, right? He makes homosexuality a capital offense. He makes buggery and sodomy actionable criminally. And in doing that, he defends marriage, you see. He makes adultery follow the Hebraic ideal of that being a capital offense. Betraying your state is not a capital offense in ancient Israel, but adultery was. And the Lord Jesus did not overturn that, by the way. He did not overturn capital punishment for adultery. Even in that famous scene with the woman caught in the adulterous act, he did not void the Old Testament promise for the protection of marriage by making adultery a capital offense. He didn't do that. It's often misinterpreted and misexplained, I think, but he did not void that Old Testament standard. In fact, he lived in context of it. Well, you're asking me how? Well, okay. The accusers could not accuse this woman of adultery because they themselves were all adulterers, and the Lord Jesus knew that. So he said, "Whom among you is innocent, cast the first stone." And because that was the rule in those days, if you were the accuser, you cast the stone. But no one could cast the stone because none of them were innocent themselves. They were all worthy of capital punishment. And so they all slinked away. That's why there was no one left to accuse her. Since there were no witnesses to accuse her in a civil forum, in a criminal proceeding, then she was exonerated for lack of prosecution. Okay, she was not cleared. She was not found not guilty. She was the case was dropped because the witnesses all absconded, and even the prosecutor, the chief witness, slinked away, not willing to accuse the woman caught in the act of adultery. And the Lord Jesus, he was not a judge, he was not a civil magistrate, had no authority to pronounce a death penalty upon her for her death penalty deserving act. What he did was look beyond that to her soul, and he said, "Go and sin no more." And if I forgive you of your sins, he's not saying she's free and clear, but he's saying that she was no longer being prosecuted because of the corruption of her accusers, the Pharisaical class. This is David Tulis, and we are brought to you by Eric Pelton, the numbers guy. Eric Pelton runs E.J. Pelton and Company. The website is ejpelton.com, and Eric will help you with your cash flow. He will help you with your small business. He will give you advice. Do call him. Make sure you mention David Tulis, and his number is 622-3156. That's 622-3156. I want to talk now about something that's really exciting, and that is local economy. We have got people who believe in local economy, and it is in the direction of the leading part of local economy is the local food movement. I'd say it's maybe about 10 years old, maybe 15 years old or so here in Chattanooga. And it's gaining adherence man by man, I hope including you. I hope that as we talk about local economy, we talk about oblique resistance, okay? How do we fight Uncle Sam? We can't fight it directly, but we can avoid Target and its lug butt advocacy. We can avoid the big chain stores that export profit from Chattanooga. We can support local farmers by going to farmers markets. And you see here, this is we're fighting we're fighting tyranny. We're fighting the industrial debt-based economy that we've been given. And we do that by loving our neighbors and buying local. And one way of doing that is demanding to have local food. When you go out to eat out in a place that sells local fare, make a point of it. Okay, these are often locally owned restaurants. Sole proprietorships or LLCs run by local people who own these restaurants. Patronize them. We're going to hear about a neat work going on. It's a nonprofit labor going on in Chattanooga that touches on this very question. It touches on not commerce, not consumption so much as trading. The idea of trading in the old agrarian theory, and then if you are the customer, the buyer, the diner. You're taking onto your plate and into your mouth the vegetables grown in a farm near here.
Cold and frosty start. A really nice day for your Tuesday. A little warmer later on with lots of sun, highs upper 50s. Tonight, not as cold, lows lower to middle 30s. For Wednesday, mostly sunny. Warm up continues, highs of around 60. Continue dry and pleasant through Thanksgiving. Cold nights are back, so keep you and your family toasty warm all winter with Dodge City Ski Shop, featuring the largest selection of cold weather clothing around at Dodge City, East Brainerd Road, Chattanooga. And I'm 1412 Chief Meteorologist Patrick Orr on AM 1240 Hot News Talk Radio.
You give us 12 minutes and 40 seconds, we'll give you Chattanooga and the world.
News Talk 1240.
I'm the type of guy that likes a big breakfast, a couple of eggs, bacon, and some gravy and biscuits. I get that at Wimpy's. I know they have specials at lunch every day. That includes a big meat and three menu. At night, I want some good comfort food. Maybe some smoked brisket, pulled barbecue, or ribs. They've got that too. Wimpy's the type of place where you can go in and have a good conversation, catch up what's going on in Soddy Daisy, and have some great food. That's why I go to Wimpy's. You know where it's at, on Dayton Boulevard, right across from City Hall. That's Wimpy's. Give them a call, 423-332-6201. Did you hear me? It's 332-6201. Wimpy's. They're even on Facebook at Wimpy's. I know your mouth is watering just like mine, so let's go to Wimpy's.
I love my Flex loan from Advance Financial. I needed cash, I needed it fast, and I didn't want to get a payday loan. My Flex loan from Advance Financial is not a payday loan. It's a line of credit. I only pay for the cash I need, and I only pay for the time that I need it. There's no lump sum payment. My Advance Financial Flex loan is an open line of credit, and I can get cash anytime I need it.
Visit one of our 24/7 locations and get the cash you need today. Advance Financial. Welcome. Are you tired of working in corporate America, or have you recently lost your job and would like to consider owning your own business? If you are, please call me, as I can help you look at franchises or business opportunities that fit you, the economy that we're in, and the type of businesses that are right in the greater Chattanooga area. After I help my clients find the right opportunity, I also help them find the best way to finance the business, including paying yourself through the startup phase. If you would like to learn more about opportunities that may be right for you, please call me for a free assessment. My name is Bruce Krebs at the Entrepreneur Source. Phone number is 423-875-5621.
Here you are, working to keep your customers happy and to manage your cash flow. IRS problems are the last thing you need, but here they are, flapping about you like vultures. Get help from Eric Pelton and his team of accountants at E.J. Pelton Company. Audits, letters, proposed return changes, 1099s, penalty threats. Pelton Tax Resolution Services brings peace of mind and helps you keep more of what you've earned. EJPelton.com. Offices on Brainerd Road and in Soddy Daisy, just north of the Bilo. That's E.J. Pelton. Call 622-3156. Think ahead. 622-3156.
Cell Surgeon, an affordable quick fix for your smartphone and tablet in Northgate Mall next to Old Chicago Pizza.
We do the best quality work. We have the best customer service, the most competitive prices around.
Cell Surgeon, a painless operation to fix your sick device.
Well, if you have a cheap charger or something that's not really designed for your phone, it can mess with your battery. It can actually fry your phone. So you need to make sure you have a quality product that's going to be designed for your phone.
Cell Surgeon, your smartphone doctor is in the house at the Northgate Mall next to Old Chicago Pizza.
If you charge it in the morning and, by noon, it's at 50% under normal use. That means your battery's pretty much dead. And once you've reached that point, it starts to deteriorate.
Cell Surgeon. Call 423-668-0100 or go to cellphonerepairchattanooga.com.
We do free estimates. If your phone's not working properly, bring it in when we weren't happy to take a look at it and diagnose it and see what we think is wrong with it at no charge. Most phone repairs can be done in 30 minutes or less.
Cell Surgeon, an affordable quick fix for your smartphone and tablet in Northgate Mall next to Old Chicago Pizza.
Don't take it in the bathroom. Don't ever put it in your back pocket. And don't charge your phone while you're sleeping.
Cell Surgeon, an affordable quick fix for your smartphone and tablet in Northgate Mall next to Old Chicago Pizza. Call 423-668-0100 or go to cellphonerepairchattanooga.com. That's cellphonerepairchattanooga.com. Cell Surgeon, your smart device doctor is in the house.
If the South would have won, we'd have had it made. I'd probably run for president of the Southern states. The day Elvis passed away would be our national holiday.
You give us 12 minutes and 40 seconds, we'll give you Chattanooga and the world.
WSDT Soddy Daisy, Chattanooga.
CBS News, I'm Frank Sedetani. NATO officials will hold an emergency meeting an hour from now on today's downing of a Russian fighter jet by Turkey in Moscow.
Сегодняшние потери связаны.
President Vladimir Putin accused Turkey of stabbing Russia in the back. Reporting from London, CBS's Charlie D'Agata tells us the Russian crew allegedly ignored repeated warnings.
U.S. officials have told CBS News the Russian aircraft did indeed violate Turkish airspace. They were looking at radar tracking that showed that did happen. It was very brief, but it did happen.
Author Edward Lucas, a former Moscow bureau chief for The Economist, says he's not the least bit surprised.
What it really highlights is just the incredible danger of having all these different air forces all flying missions over Syria without really any coordination, and this has been an accident waiting to happen.
Turkmen rebels on the Syrian side of the border claim they saw the two Russian pilots bailing out of the plane and killed them. The shootdown in Turkey will no doubt come up when French President Francois Hollande and President Obama sit down at the White House a short time from now, as will the threat from ISIS.
A European official tells CBS News that President Hollande is coming here to the White House with a very clear message for President Obama, that the threat from ISIS requires urgent action and that the stability of Europe is at stake.
CBS's Chip Reed. In Brussels, CBS's Deborah Pata tells us the Belgian capital is still dealing with the threat of an imminent ISIS terrorist attack.
Most shops still closed, schools are shut, the metro is shut. They will open tomorrow, and the Belgian President Jean Michel said that they will have new security measures in place in the schools in order to protect children.
White Chicago policeman Jason Van Dyke has turned himself in to face a murder charge in the shooting death of a black teenager more than a year ago. Video of the incident, which is due to be released by tomorrow, reportedly shows the teenager had a small knife but was walking away from officers when he was shot. Reverend Ira Acree is a local pastor.
Many in my community feel betrayed. Many are so very angry, and protests are imminent.
Police in Minneapolis are looking for 3 white male suspects in the shooting of 5 people near a demonstration last night to protest the killing of a black man by a Minneapolis police officer. A private survey found that home prices rose 5.5% in the latest 12-month period. That's the biggest gain in more than a year. CBS News business analyst Jill Schlesinger says the law of supply and demand is moving the market.
There is still very low inventory, and that is pushing prices higher for the housing market.
Chicken salad sold at Costco stores has been linked to E. coli food poisoning cases in Washington State, Colorado, Montana, and Utah. Health officials are looking for the source of the infection. A winter storm that's bearing down on the Pacific Northwest could dump as much as a foot of snow in parts of the Mountain West. In early trading on Wall Street, the Dow Industrials are down 49 points. This is CBS News.
Hi, folks. Alan Thicke here. For some time now, I've been offering tips about how to deal with the IRS if you've fallen behind on your taxes. Telling you to call Optima Tax Relief because they're the best trained, most trustworthy, blah, blah, and blah. But now the message is so familiar, you may not be listening. Oh, it's him again. Well, here's the important message. Call Optima Tax Relief. They can help you resolve your IRS issues. The government, can garnish your wages. They can levy your bank account, even take your home or business. To be fair, the IRS also has a new program called the Fresh Start Initiative to help you with that debt. So we've given you clever slogans. Don't mess with the IRS. They'd rather settle for less than bother you more. Now the clever thing for you to do is call Optima Tax Relief now for your free consultation.
Call 800-956-6166. 800-956-6166. 800-956-6166. Some restrictions apply. For complete details, please visit OptimaTaxRelief.com.
A report on baby crib bumpers says they can be deadly. CBS News correspondent Peter King.
The report says between 2006 and 2012, 23 children died.
It's a threefold increase in bumper-reported deaths
from the previous 3 7-year periods. Washington University's Dr. Bradley Thatch is the study's lead author. He says there were 48 deaths and 146 close calls dating back to 1985. He says infants can get wedged into padded areas or pull the padding loose and choke. And because medical examiners rarely mention the bumpers after crib deaths,
we think that there is a great deal of underreporting.
The study appears in the Journal of Pediatrics. Peter King, CBS News.
Nudity, alcohol, and women in shark costumes may have livened up a party last month for prospective female members of an exclusive all-male Harvard social club, but it was all too much for the club's board of directors. The Boston Globe says they closed the Fox Club at least through New Year's Day. Frank Sedapani, CBS News.
You give us 12 minutes and 40 seconds, we'll give you Chattanooga and the world.
News Talk 1240. Live from Chattanooga, Tennessee, it's Nooganomics with David Tulis.
I'm holding in my hands a head of broccoli, and it comes to our radio station from Sandabama Farm in Bryant, Alabama. And then I have also in my hand, as I put the broccoli down, I'm holding in my hand a very cool jar, clear jar of Walden Ridge honey. It's called honey, and then in red letters underneath it on this silver-topped lid jar, it says Raw Mountain. So it's Raw Mountain honey from Walden Ridge here in Tennessee. I talk about obliquity, the way that we fight the good people, if you will, the way we fight the machine indirectly by the theory of indirectness. We get to the place we want to get not by direct confrontation with machines that are broken and not working and that are really inhuman. But we get there by having a meal. We have a meal like that which was held yesterday, in fact, according to Bill Mitchell, held downtown on a city street where hundreds of people got a free meal. And the purpose of that Causeway event, it was catered by local people, was for people to sit down at table and look at each other in the face and make some slight acquaintance with hopefully a stranger, hopefully someone in a lower economic stratus than the party who's you. Okay, you, my listener. And so we're here talking with Whitney Marks, who runs Harvested Here Food Hub, and she has been gracious enough to bring samples of the kind of things that are part of the war to take back yourself, right? The war to take back your family, and to take back your home, and a sense of belonging. Local economy is the theory as I describe it. And Whitney, welcome to our program.
Thanks, David.
Well, okay, this is broccoli. It's called a head. Is that the correct word?
Correct.
It is a head of broccoli, and it came from Sandabama Farm in Bryan, Alabama. Now, why should my listener give a hoot about this bit of broccoli? What's the story about where this broccoli came from, and where might it be going?
Okay, so in particular, this particular farm, Sandabama Farms, the name was actually derived from Sand Mountain, that's in Alabama, and then the Bama part would be that it's located in Alabama. So Sandabama Farms. The operator of that farm is Sonny Pemberton, and he's a fantastic local grower who really uses some great sustainable farming methods. He is actually undergoing the process to become certified organic from the USDA. So even though this isn't a certified organic broccoli head from the USDA standards, he's already using those practices.
All right, so that's where this head of broccoli is from, and where might it be going?
We have already distributed some to a couple of restaurants in town, one of which is Il Primo, which is actually on Hickson Pike. Near the studio. So.
Now, when you say deliver, who is it that's doing the delivery, and why is this? Why does this matter to my listener that it's delivered to Il Primo here in Hickson?
Okay, so Chattanooga has a great, bustling local food scene. There are a lot of residents in the area, in and around Chattanooga, that really love and want to support local farms and the local food community here. So, Harvested Here Food Hub's role is to work with area farmers within a 120-mile radius of Chattanooga, and we then aggregate, store, market, and distribute those products out to area restaurants, grocery stores, and other institutional kitchens like schools.
Now, my listener is trying to remember radius. Now, is it 120 miles from the point of your facility on Amnicola Highway, or is it 60 miles out either direction? What's the radius?
Is 120 miles from where we are currently located on Amnicola.
Okay. So it's a 240-mile distance from one point of the circumference to the opposite point.
Correct.
Okay, and so that takes in a good part of southeast Tennessee.
Yes.
That's here for us.
Correct.
Okay.
Correct.
Well, tell my listener about Walden Ridge Raw Mountain Honey. What is that about, and who produced it, and how did you get your hands on it?
Okay, so the owner and operator of Walden Ridge Honey is William Wells, and he heard about the Food Hub and called our offices a few months back and said, hey, I'm really interested in really promoting my brand and our story about our farm, and heard about who you guys are and what you're doing in the community and how you're really working on the behalf of local farms to get their products out into some avenues and areas that maybe I couldn't do myself. So I worked with William. I went out and did a farm tour at his farm location in Sale Creek, Tennessee, and was absolutely blown away by the effort that he puts into really taking care of his bees. He has gone to really a good extreme of protecting them from pollution and things like that are more common to downtown. So he's in an area that's really isolated, and he's just done a fantastic job with the integrity of his bees and his honey.
Well, what's my listener or his wife who may be doing the shopping today going to pay to buy this jar of honey? It seems like it's about 6 pounds or so.
That's actually about a pound or two there.
Okay, 38 ounces. Excuse me.
So it's not that much. We
Almost
actually sell more. We have 5-pound jars of that actually that we sell to a lot of the chefs and the Camp House that's on MLK downtown. They're using the honey again. Il Primo, as I mentioned before, they're using the honey as well.
Well, why is locally produced honey maybe better for my listener's health and the health of his children than, say, honey bought at a chain store?
So with local food in general, so outside of just honey, there are several reasons that local is best. One of which is the nutrient density. So if you're someone who's concerned about health and you're really wanting to get the maximum benefits out of your food, when it's locally sourced, it's always best because actually produce, vegetables, and fruits start losing their nutrient density from the time that it's harvested, whenever it's picked. So if you can consume a local food within a few hours or even a couple of days of harvest, then you're going to get more nutrients out of that than you would something that's coming on a tractor trailer from California that's several days old.
Now, Harvested Here Food Hub is a nonprofit division of the food bank. Is it its own 501c3 charity corporation?
Correct. Yes, we are.
Has its own board.
Yes.
And it's now quartered in the rather large warehouse along Amnicola Highway. It seems like that seems like a huge building.
It is.
And is the food hub going to be staying there? Is it enough room for the food hub and the food bank to work together there?
That's a really good question. The food hub's operation started about a year ago, and we have quickly outgrown the space that was designated to us within the Chattanooga area food bank. And the food bank at the same time is growing and expanding their operations as well. So we are currently in process of looking for our own building to move to so that we can really expand our product offerings and be able to store more. And
because the food hub is nonprofit, that means that it's not interested in obtaining a profit from the work it does in the marketplace. It is a marketplace actor, right?
Correct.
It is a distributor.
Yes.
And there are many for-profit distributors in the whole food industry, right? The grocery industry is full of distributors.
Yes. So our goal is to return most of the dollars strictly back to the local farmers that we purchase from.
Does that mean you're giving the money back to them, or they're just getting a reduced cost for the distribution of their goods?
So we pay them a certain percentage of the going retail rate for products. We pay them on a weekly or even sometimes a monthly basis, depending on the terms that the farmer sets up with us.
Well, how is the food hub sustainable financially?
Right now, we are funded by 2 local foundations in Chattanooga. And the goal is for the food hub to be self-sustaining within the next 5 years. But those initial startup costs that come along with a new business organization are being supported by those foundations.
And what is the goal of these foundations? Why do they want to give away money for a business? Effectively, the food hub is a kind of a business. What is it that they see needing to be done in Chattanooga to fund you for that long?
Well, Chattanooga, as I mentioned before, really does have a thriving local food scene. And so with the opportunity of a food hub comes an outlet for all of these local farmers to really be able to distribute their product in an efficient way. Farmers really enjoy farming, and that's what they like to do. So at the end of a long 12-hour day, a lot of times they don't want to focus on marketing and distributing their products. So it's an efficient factor for them, and that it's an efficiency and a convenience factor for our chefs and our grocery store producers and kitchen managers. For them, rather, if they want to have local food on their menus or for sale to the consumer, they get to call the food hub and purchase from multiple growers at one time versus having to get on the phone and find local farmers themselves.
This is David Tulis. We're talking with Whitney Marks, who represents Harvested Here Food Hub, which is part of the food bank. It's a food bank subsidiary. She has a master's degree in public administration and is married. Her husband's name is Jonathan. And the food hub started in 2013. And the food bank, you said, handles 13 million pounds of food a year. It's a very large operation, but it has only a month's supply for the charity cases who get that food out of the food bank. Is that right?
Correct.
What is your pound movement per month or per year at the food hub? How many tons or pounds can you report?
Wow, that is a very good question. To get the exact number on that, I would have to go back to the office and ask our assistant manager.
Well, something that may be not an easily arrived at number, but one thing that is easily arrived at is Sequatchie Cove Creamery. I'm holding here in my hand. It looks like a small round of cheese called Dancing Fern. What is this? What is this product about?
Dancing Fern is actually a nationally recognized cheese. Sequatchie Cove Creamery is huge, and this particular cheese variety has won a national award. And one of the interesting things about Dancing Fern is Delta Airlines has picked this up, and they serve it to their first class customers who fly with them. So that's really cool.
Does the harvested here receive federal money of any kind?
Currently, the only federal funds that we have received are from a USDA local food promotion program grant that we just received.
And how much was it for, and how will the money be spent?
It was for $100,000, and it's going to run over the course of the next 2 years. And our plans with the money is obviously if it's a local food promotion program grant, a lot of those funds are going to be used to for marketing purposes, for retail signage that goes in the grocery store, and just really kind of amping the marketing efforts of the food hub.
Is there more supply of local grown food, or is there more of a demand for it? Is there, I know marketplace is always jostling back and forth. There's more demand, so there's more supply. There's too much supply, prices go down, demand may increase. Where is the match, if there is one, between supply and demand in local food here in Chattanooga?
I would say the supply is definitely here. A lot of people are under the impression that we don't have enough farmers, but we actually do. We have a lot of farmers in the area. The demand is certainly there as well. So I would almost say it's probably a balance between the two.
What should my listener do in thinking about this issue? He's not in charge at his house of cooking. His wife does that very graciously and provides my listener when he gets home with a meal and with the children. But she's very concerned about the budget, Whitney Marks, and she hasn't really been encouraged by my listener to explore local food or farmers markets. What can my listener do in the way of his thinking processes, which would make him encourage her to maybe patronize local vendors or local suppliers and go out of her? Why should she go out of her way to ask for locally grown vegetables and fruits?
Well, as I mentioned earlier, there's the health benefit and the nutrition that comes with purchasing local. There's also the benefit of, sustaining the local economy. There's a statistic out there from OCHS that says if the consumers in Chattanooga invested 5% more in the local food economy, that would generate about $100 million that would circulate in and around Chattanooga's economy.
Does a locally spent dollar circulate more than a nationally spent dollar in local economy?
Yes, it does. So if you go to a farmer's market and you buy some local produce there, you're essentially an investor in that farmer and in their farm and in the products that they are creating.
What is the connection between the growing number of farmers markets and the Harvested Here Food Hub, Whitney Marks?
So with farmers markets, we've been really connected with the Main Street Farmers Market that is on East Main Street every Wednesday. And they are a fantastic market for a number of reasons, but one of which is they have a very large farmer base that's there, that's local here to Chattanooga. And their farmers do a fantastic job of, growing sustainably and responsibly. And so we've actually been able to have a Harvest Fest event last fall out at that farmers market to just really promote what they're doing, and continue to help foster the local food scene.
Our thinking here at AM 1240 Hot News Talk Radio is that we should love our neighbors and buy local. That is, you might say, the slogan, and it's not trademarked. So you, my listener, can use it in your store if you think it would be appropriate. And part of the complex of ideas that make up lococentrism, or if you will, Noogacentrism, is that near is better than far and that small is better than big. And then the third point, always argue by threes, simple is better than complex. And even in the footnotes, though, we've got where the fleas are fighting with scimitars and javelins, we've got the following: personal is better than corporate, and physical than abstract. And the Harvested Here Food Hub is operating in many ways, even though it has the good people doling out a little bit of money to it. It is operating in that context. And so we have to see how the idea of obliquity, the idea of indirectly gaining ourselves back, finding our own souls, if you will, as a city, though I know that's kind of a term of art to say that, but if a city has a soul, I think it might be more easily found by the aggregate of the people through the local-centric concept that Whitney Marks is here describing at Harvested Here Food Hub. Well, Whitney, what are some of the real problems that you're facing? What are the hangups in this this charitable effort of the Food Hub? What's wrong that can't easily be fixed?
One of the challenges that the Food Hub is presently facing, we kind of touched on before, is space and capacity with where we are now at the food bank. We've grown, and so has the food bank. And so we're kind of in a tough spot right now with how much more product we can bring in and reasonably store in our own coolers.
So in your own coolers, there are some tons of food. Is that fair to say? Is it tons?
No, I wouldn't say that
No.
much.
Okay.
No.
Okay, but there are some heavy things in your cooler, right?
Yes.
Like this jug of apple cider. Now, tell us about this this jug, please.
So this apple cider is from Apple Valley Orchards out of Cleveland, Tennessee. The owner and operator of the orchard is Chuck McSpadden. And we've been working with him since our business operations started last fall. This cider is actually out in stores at Earth Fair, which is on Gun Barrel Road in Chattanooga, and at Harvest Grocery. So that's one of the things I'm very proud of, is that although the Food Hub doesn't sell directly to consumers, we're making the access to purchase local foods easier for the consumer.
Is it harder, Whitney Marks, for a local cider to get into a national chain? Let me ask you this. How hard is it for this local cider to get into, let's say, Food City? What are the obstacles that the farmer and that you face getting it there?
Okay, so the reason that this is not in Food City yet is that Food City, along with other grocery stores like Whole Foods, the new industry standard for retail outlets is going to be a certification called GAP, G-A-P. It stands for Good Agricultural Practices. And many of the farmers in our area don't have GAP certification. So Chuck McSpadden at Apple Valley Orchards is currently in process to obtain GAP certification.
Talk about what's complicated about that. Why is it hard to get?
Well, you think about the average farmer. It's a very labor intensive job, obviously, with working on the farm. And so there is an immense amount of paperwork that is involved in undergoing GAP certification, as well as some improvements that they may have to make to their farm in order to get the certification could be costly. So you have time and money that are obstacles to the average farmer.
And that's because these are small farms run by families.
Correct.
They don't have they don't have administrative firepower with which to deal with these forms.
Correct. Yeah. So one of the goals the Food Hub has is to help educate our farmers on how to obtain GAP certification, help them fill out their SOPs, their standard operating practices, and really get them ready for a GAP.
How many pages is an SOP?
Oh, it depends on for which certification. I would say easily 15 to 20.
Okay, wherever you are, there's administration. Well, Whitney Marks, thanks for joining us.
Thank you for having me.
Whitney Marks oversees the Harvested Here Food Hub public relations efforts and probably many other things in the office, right, Whitney?
Yes.
And she's here to talk about the local fair, including this jug of cider, which is in Harvested Here grocery store here in Hickson, and one other. And she's trying to get local economy to penetrate to the table. This is David Tulis. I've got some things I want you to hear. Hang on.
You give us 12 minutes and 40 seconds, we'll give you Chattanooga and the world.
News Talk 1240.
After another cold and frosty start, a really nice day for your Tuesday. A little warmer later on with lots of sun, highs upper 50s. Tonight, not as cold, lows lower to middle 30s. For Wednesday, mostly sunny. Warm up continues, highs of around 60. Continue dry and pleasant through Thanksgiving. Cold nights are back, so keep you and your family toasty warm all winter with Dodge City Ski Shop, featuring the largest selection of cold weather clothing around at Dodge City, East Brainerd Road, Chattanooga. And I'm 1412 Chief Meteorologist Patrick Orr. On AM 1240, Hot News Talk Radio.
You give us 12 minutes and 40 seconds, we'll give you Chattanooga and the world.
News Talk 1240. Celebrate the holidays with cheer and basement bargain prices at One Stop Package in the Sunrise Market Center, Sunny Daisy. The brand new One Stop Package beverage store on Old Dayton Pike, just north of the Thrasher Light, with the best prices in town. Enjoy the lowest prices on beer, wine, liquor, and soft drinks. Hey, mention you heard this ad on Hot News Talk Radio and get 5% off your purchase. That's right. Mention you heard this on the radio and you'll get 5% off. The brand new One Stop Package beverage store in Sunny Daisy. Their prices are always the lowest prices in town. The lowest prices you'll find in the finest of adult beverages. The brand new One Stop Package in South Sunny Daisy at the Sunrise Market, featuring great prices on gas, bread, and milk. The Sunrise Market just across from Charlie's in Sunny Daisy. And remember, always drink responsibly.
Get 10% off every case of wine.
The Fed raising rates, China's economy in trouble. Don't let headlines derail your long-term financial strategy. I'm Edward Jones financial advisor Patrick Neal. At Edward Jones, we provide the tools for a reasoned, disciplined approach to investing. Stop by my office next to the Target Shopping Center in Hickson, or call me at 423-870-7894. That's Patrick Neal at 870-7894. Edward Jones, making sense of investing. Member SIPC.
You have an event coming up for the holidays, or maybe it is your daughter's wedding, or maybe just a church or office party. Then you need to select Choo Choo Barbecue. That's correct, Choo Choo Barbecue. Whether you like pork, chicken, or beef, oh yes, Choo Choo Barbecue with their savory rub flavor. Oh my goodness, it's making me hungry right now. You add in their delicious smoked aroma, and you have set the table for a perfect meal. Choo Choo Barbecue. That's right, Choo Choo Barbecue. Why don't you give them a call right now? 423-843-9554. That's 843-9554. Call 423-843-9554. Choo Choo Barbecue. You know where it's located, off of Hickson Pike, right there at the Valley Brook area. Don't kid yourself. Your stomach is already on the way.
You feel better outside your home or business than in? Indoor air quality is important. Mildew, mold, smoke, water, and rodent damage are prime causes of poor indoor air quality. Ducts Indoor Air Professionals, better known as Duct Busters, cleans HVAC systems using 127 definable Duct Busters steps. Let Mark Thompson address the indoor air quality at your business to help reduce employee illnesses. Prevent fires by cleaning your dryer vents. Mark and his parents, Dick and Joan Thompson, have been building our local economy and helping local people with HVAC systems 16 years. Ducts Indoor Air Professionals. Call 876-9907. 876-9907. Ducks. Call now.
You give us 12 minutes and 40 seconds, we'll give you Chattanooga and the world.
News Talk 1240.
You give us 12 minutes and 40 seconds, we'll give you Chattanooga.
Fox News Radio. I'm Chris Foster. Russian President Vladimir Putin calls it a stab in the back. Turkish pilots shooting down a Russian warplane.
It's the first time a NATO member country has shot down a Russian jet. Turkey says it fired on Moscow's aircraft after repeatedly warning Russia to stop flying in Ankara's airspace. The Kremlin denies its jet was in Turkey's airspace, maintaining it was in Syria throughout its flight.
Fox's Jessica Gallagher. There are conflicting reports about the two Russian pilots, whether one or both are dead, captured, or missing. The president of France visiting the White House.
Aside from a show of solidarity with France, not much is expected out of today's meeting between Presidents Obama and Hollande. The French would like the U.S. to coordinate counterattacks against ISIS with Russia, but President Obama is skeptical of such efforts.
Fox's John Decker. Fox News, we report.
Live from Chattanooga, Tennessee, it's Nooganomics with David Tulis.
I'll ask you fun questions. How about that?
The man in the studio is going to ask me fun questions, but you know, I never give my position away. I'm always the one asking the questions, and my guest is the man who has the answers, and that's why we have Josh Snyderman here in the studio. My name is David Tulis, and we are at AM 1240 Hot News Talk Radio, the station that haggles over the details and makes the argument that we should love our neighbors. And by local, we are the dissenters. We are the classical liberal dissenters from the establishment paradigm. Yes, that's right. We don't like Republicans either, and Democrats. We fear them even more than the bubonic plague. And so the argument we make for local economy in the free market is really that of decentralization. Lamennais, the conservative French philosopher, said back at the time of Alexis de Tocqueville that centralization brings apoplexy at the center and paralysis to the extremities. And that's where we are today. We have a marketplace analysis that so centralization is the problem that we have. It's an economic disaster, and it has human costs as well. And one human cost, of course, is malevolent educational cartels that imprison children and make it impossible for them to care about things. And we have declining interest in the American public education system, in the tricky and very valuable gifts that are connected with sciences. That would be engineering, mathematics, and the name is David Tulis. And I'll hang on just a second.
After another cold and frosty start, a really nice day for your Tuesday. A little warmer later on with lots of sun, highs upper 50s. Tonight, not as cold, lows lower to middle 30s. For Wednesday, mostly sunny. Warm up continues, highs of around 60. Continue dry and pleasant through Thanksgiving. Cold nights are back, so keep you and your family toasty warm all winter with Dodge City Ski Shop, featuring the largest selection of cold weather clothing around at Dodge City, East Brainerd Road, Chattanooga. And I'm 1412 Chief Meteorologist Patrick Orr. On AM 1240, Hot News Talk Radio.
You give us 12 minutes and 40 seconds, we'll give you Chattanooga and the world.
News Talk 1240. Live from Chattanooga, Tennessee, it's Nooganomics with David Tulis.
If centralization is the enemy, then what are the solutions? Well, the solutions are decentralization, and we would say a free market in especially educational services. So the cartel has imprisoned in our county 43,000 children, ostensibly to educate them, and yet there are many disincentives to real knowledge, to real curiosity. And one group that is helping to maybe break through some of that ice formed on the warm body politic of the public school is Josh Snyderman. He works with and for Learning Blade, which is a STEM career awareness software outfit. Is that a fair description?
That is a very fair description.
Well, okay. Tell us make an analysis of the problem of the disinterest in the sciences and mathematics. What is the problem? Where does the problem come from? And then then Josh Snyderman will have some idea of what your company's solutions might be to them.
Great question. So, we live in a modern world, very modern, where technology is everywhere for us. And so as we can recognize that we're always, everything around us, the computer, this set in front of us, these switches, these toggles designed and engineered by somebody. And as the world gets more technical, students need to become more technically aware to understand their surroundings. So your question was, where's the gap? What's happening? Well, kids need relevance. They need to understand how science, technology, engineering, mathematics, which I'll now just call STEM, how it impacts them. And so if I'm just doing rote memorization of math, how am I recognizing how that impacts the world around me? If I'm just doing science experiments that are fun, but just for the sake of basic core knowledge, but not understanding how I can use my core knowledge, well, then what good is that going to help me in understanding the world around me? And so what's happening, there's actually a national security part of this discussion, which is our national security infrastructure requires STEM careers, requires engineers and mathematicians. And we're not graduating enough people with enough interest. And so, I actually went to the National Defense Industry Association meeting recently, and they were concerned that we're not graduating enough students who are aware of computer science. And so you know about the cyber attacks on our country from China and from others. Who's supposed to be graduating to defend us with the knowledge? And so what Learning Blade's trying to do is try to create an awareness of STEM careers, about how they have a positive impact on society, and help motivate students to be interested in STEM careers, so that way they have that choice. One last thing, David. STEM careers are growing at twice the rate as non-STEM careers. So if you want your kid to have a positive outlook on an economic future and job that they can hold down and feed their family, STEM careers are also very important.
Well, you're saying that to the benefit of my listener who's a dad. My listener is the man who has a family, and he's married, and likes a sense of direction as to how to encourage his children. So you're saying that there is a career, very favorable career prospect in that field.
Very favorable. They pay higher. They pay women higher. They pay men higher, and they're growing, especially in Tennessee. STEM careers in Tennessee are growing at a really great rate.
Is the interest in technology and science and mathematics low because of the way technology, the digital economy is like magic? You have all apps, you have all kinds of things that work with just the movement of a thumb on a screen, and somehow things are magically made live for us. They're put on the screen, they pop up. We can have many things pass before our eyes in a moment. And children see these things, and somehow to them it's magic. Why?
We call that the black box in education, which is,
talk about that.
That students see the output of the black box, but they have no idea what's happening inside that black box. And so that's the whole idea of STEM, is to re-engage a generation of students to be able to make their own black box. There's something called the maker movement, to make content, not just to consume content. And so if students can make their own apps, make their own codes, design their own programs, use something, understand how to use Scratch or use technical computer science language to design their own apps. We want to make students makers, so that way they can understand the black box syndrome.
Okay, my listener is thinking, okay, my son has an iPod. He's got an iPod. He's 12 years old. He's listening to music on this thing. He has games on this. He has various things on there. He's a consumer of tech.
Yes.
Well, what can my listener do in his family, raising his children, that makes him want to penetrate beyond just the use? What should he limit the iPod? Should he not let his child have more than an hour a day or an hour a week or 2 hours a week on computer games? How should he understand the temptation, the lure of the consumption of the digital?
Well, you just asked two really important questions. One is, how can I inspire my student with that technology they're holding to use it better, to inspire them? And there's lots of ways to do that. Ask questions, have conversations. The other is, what's the proper limit for technology? People have heard that even Steve Jobs limited his kids' use of the iPad. And actually, as a middle school science teacher, 10 years in the classroom and lots of research on this, kids who watch less television in the week time do better on their grades. You want your kids' grades to go up, the first thing you can do, the easiest, simplest, is limit television, limit screen time, all screen time. So I consider iPads and other things screen time. But of course, the best thing in terms of your initial intro, in terms of the centralization and the ice on the education system, is good parenting. Talk to your kids, engage your kids, have conversations. I read a great report recently that said when you ask your kid when they get home from school, do you ask them, how was school today? Or do you engage them in conversations and discussions?
This is David Tulis, and caller, you're live on the air with John Snyderman.
John, I don't know that I agree with you. I'm so sick of these soccer moms saying, well, my kid's screen time is limited to 30 minutes a day, and they only watch so much TV. Well, of course the grades are going to go up if they get propagandized by, so-called educators that feed, they regurgitate with their stuff down their throat. Kids that are not allowed to use technology are going to fail. And it's evidenced by the fact in the early 90s, I, in my business, put computers in and made it technically oriented, and I couldn't get anybody to work because they didn't understand it, because they weren't dealing with computers from the 70s. These kids must get face time. They must get as much time as they want. They need to use iPads, computers, and programs as often as they need to, or we business people don't need them. We don't need them. We don't need them passing your tests. We need them to be tech savvy.
That's a great, there's actually some value in what you said. We need kids to be tech savvy. And I agree with you wholeheartedly. I also agree that an 8-year-old child needs some limits, right, on the amount of technology that they consume, and that they also get a chance to do other things like read books. But to your point about tech savvy, that is what Learning Blade was designed for. It was designed to show students. We have over 90 careers and technologies. We teach kids about automotive engineering, biomechanical engineers, civil engineers, environmental engineers, industrial designers, machinists, manufacturers, marine biologists, mechanics, mechanical drafters, all of those things. So, my core argument is that a parent like yourself who's concerned, and one of the things you need to do is just to help your kids recognize that technology isn't just what you hold in your hands, but it's all around us, and there's lots of opportunities. And so sometimes just lifting your head up from the game or the app you're stuck in for 8 hours a day, what could be nice is lift your head up and ask that question: what are other applications and other things you can use technology for to impact your community around you?
Does somehow the digital screen discourage that kind of question from coming? Is there something about the nature of technology and the screen that makes that kind of openness and desire to find out more less likely? Josh?
Well, so, it's interesting. In kindergarten, kids are natural born investigators. And then as they get through our education system that you talked about as sort of a behemoth that sort of slows things down, they start to stop asking questions and stop engaging that natural curiosity and inquisitiveness. And Learning Blade was designed to bring some of that back by introducing you to multiple careers and technologies. You say to yourself, I never heard about that before. Let me give you an example. I had a teacher yesterday tell me that there's a lesson in Learning Blade about how to help a dolphin. You know the story Dolphin Tale, about the dolphin with a prosthetic tail. Well, in the lesson, the students do antibiotics, and they do mathematics ratios of calculating weight to kilograms and ratios in milligrams, and figuring out the dose of the antibiotics to give to the dolphin. This is in our Learning Blade lesson. The teacher came to me and said, my student did that, went home and said to their parent, you're giving me the wrong amount of medicine, because they had learned about dosing and ratios and proportions. So by using interesting, engaging lessons, students are encouraged to ask questions, and that's what we really want to do.
Now, is Learning Blade is it a charity? Is it a for-profit business? What is it exactly? Is it a single man, evangelizing for STEM education? What is it exactly?
No, we are a small tech startup. We are for-profit. But really what we're trying to do is, more than anything, inspire all students in Tennessee. So this is actually free for every single school in Tennessee. And all a school would need to do is contact us and ask for a license, and they can make as many student accounts as they would want. It's being offered to all schools in Tennessee thanks to the Tennessee STEM Innovation Network. And the goal here is simply to encourage students to ask questions about careers. Let me just give you a little something here, David. If you're from a low-income family, if you're from potentially a fatherless family, or if you're a young girl, potentially minority, do you have people around you who are STEM-oriented? And if you don't, who's encouraging you in those STEM careers that are the fastest-growing segment of our economy? And so the idea here is, if you don't have an uncle or a father who's an engineer, who's going to talk to you about engineering? Well, hopefully Learning Blade can bridge that gap a little bit.
And does Learning Blade provide real people and real interactions with this, or is it all done on the screen?
Yeah, this is a digital interface. Yep. And so,
are the lectures, how is the argument and the material presented?
Excellent question. So in Learning Blade, we have what's called a mission. And so students go on a mission, and what they're supposed to do is accomplish the goal of the mission. So in all of our missions, we're showing and highlighting how STEM has an impact in society. So for example, we have a dolphin rescue mission, building an orphanage in Haiti mission, a heart surgery mission.
Or back up, the orphanage in Haiti. I think my listener and I can understand that. How does that storyline? How does my listener's son, who's in a public school, enter into that storyline and explain what he does, what he's watching, how long it takes, and the interaction that brings him hopefully a point?
Excellent question. So in our Haiti orphanage, for example, this is designed for middle school students. So what they will do is they're tasked on a mission to help build an orphanage that is environmentally sound and stable for kids who were displaced by an earthquake, the Haiti earthquake, right? And so in doing that, they are told the story of the earthquake, and then they are given a bunch of careers that they need to get on their team to help them accomplish this. The careers are a nurse, to help calculate antibiotic doses for children and to vaccinate or not to vaccinate, and to do preventive medicine. A civil engineer to help build bridges, build a civilized world, and to and really figure out the ground that they're surveying. An environmental engineer
to make sure that it's not on an earthquake fault line.
Exactly. An environmental engineer to monitor the environment and make sure that you're supplying the students in the orphanage with clean water. An architect to do the building. An electrician. So these are kids learning about how they could have an impact in the world. In an example, using Haiti as a real motivating example, but they're learning about STEM careers like electricians and architects. And that's a unique. We've got a special sauce.
Stories always sell. Product stories sell. I mean, here stories sell potential careers for the student who's watching this presentation.
Absolutely. So I met with another teacher yesterday, and she said to me, a student did our biomechanical engineering, which is all about using prosthetics and building prosthetics for injured people, or in this case, the injured dolphin as well. And the student said, I had never heard of that before. I want to learn more. Can we go visit a local factory that was actually a local manufacturer who is building things? The student was so interested, they asked their teacher for a field trip. That's what Learning Blade's meant to do.
So was that to a Phil Hour over on Riverside Drive?
No, I was actually up in Putnam County in Tennessee. So you were asking about, we have missions, and each mission the student does something with a STEM career and STEM technology, but all of our missions have math being applied in a real world setting. So here's the real secret to our technology. When you do math in context, you start to recognize why it's needed. And there's amazing statistics, David, that students who don't take higher level math classes are unlikely to go into certain careers. And what the problem is, in middle school, students are making decisions about whether or not they're going to take those higher level math classes, and they don't recognize the impact it'll have. What Learning Blade does is it encourages them. This is why math is needed. This is why it's relevant. It's exciting. Look how it's solving real world problems. Now kids want to go and challenge themselves.
Well, how does Learning Blade pay the light bill?
Well, we pay the light bill by through the state provided funding for the Tennessee STEM Innovation Network to improve STEM education in the state of Tennessee. And the TSIN, or the Tennessee STEM Innovation Network, has offered licenses to all schools. And so through that.
So how old is the Tennessee STEM Innovation Network? How old is that?
They're going on their I don't know, I can't answer that question exactly, but they're multi-year. They've been doing work.
And
for a couple
is that in the Department of Commerce of Tennessee government?
Department of Education. And they have what they've created is hubs. So there's 7 hubs around Tennessee. You can go to thetsin.org. And those hubs are working with STEM schools. There's a STEM school right here in Chattanooga.
Which one?
This is called STEM School. It's doing amazing work. It's over on the UTC campus. I was there the other day. They've got a fab lab and just a really great setup and doing innovative things. But the STEM schools are connected to the TSIN. They try innovative things and then they share it out with their community.
So your revenues are 100% from state government?
Our revenues are from, no. That's not well. We have contracts all over the country. So we've got we're working in 22 states. So in Tennessee, it's free for every school. We're working in DC and Kentucky and Alabama and Ohio.
But the client for Learning Blade is generally state bureaucracies of education.
Not correct. So that is we have corporate sponsors. So we have, for example, there are many corporate sponsors who have they have students come and visit their location. And when their students come and visit the location, they, on a tour, they want to give them something. And so one of the things they can give them is Learning Blade lessons we've got a day in the life of all of our careers. So a day in the life of a different engineering skills, a day in the life of a computer scientist. And they want to share those. And so they purchase contracts as well. Individual schools purchase contracts, home schools purchase contracts. And then, but yeah, I mean, we look for funding. We can't live on just breathing air.
This is David Tulis. We're talking with Josh Snyderman, who runs one of the several individuals running Learning Blade, which is a tech startup, and it provides software free to every school. The schools get a free license to use a software which helps students to interact with real life situations, real life problems, if you will, that are solved by people who have a STEM education. STEM is science, technology, engineering, and mathematics. Is that right?
That is correct.
And the goal is to make up a grave lack of individuals in those fields in the American public system.
That's correct.
Well, how does your company say something else about how your company works and where it came from and who the principals are?
Excellent. So Learning Blade is actually owned by a company called Thinking Media, and Thinking Media had another product which was called Keytrain for ACT. And what that did was it built up basic fundamental skills for students to enter the workforce. And so we had 4 million different registered users, millions of hours, 28 statewide contracts. But what it was proven to raise basic skills. That was acquired by ACT, and we're doing the same thing for middle school. We are building, so kids need to learn how to read informational text. They need to understand that the world is complex and how to answer questions in a complex setting. And so we're building that, but we're doing that around STEM careers.
What is the prospect of the idea of public schools coming to an end entirely as being very inefficient cartel formations that don't allow for the free interplay of the market and that don't really serve the clients? If clients are, we think, are parents, but they're really, in the end, the clients of public schools are the state itself. And is your service part of maintaining an existing system, or is there any
part
element
of the cartel?
Yeah, exactly. Are you part of the cartel, or are you a destabilizing force, Josh Snyderman?
We are a destabilizing force if I had to choose between the two. And I take I have a different opinion of education than you do in terms of public education. I'm a product of public schools.
I'm afraid I am too.
Well, and I love the fact that I got a great education in my public school. Now we're over testing students, and that is definitely causing some gum out of the system and the gears and the wheels. And so there's definitely more we could be doing to improve that. And that's how Learning Blade is destabilizing. What we are trying to say is that kids need relevant contextual information that inspires them. And so while I disagree with the idea that the public education system is a cartel, I do agree that it needs some shaking up. And Learning Blade's trying to shake it up in inspiring students early and often that they can have an impact on the world around them, and showing them how math can be used in context so that inspires them in math in particular to go and change the world.
Does Learning Blade need more capital?
We always could use more capital.
What kind of investors are you looking for?
Well, we have we definitely look for sponsorship from organizations and that want to share or purchase licenses for schools, for homeschools, for students to log in the after school. It's used in the after school environment. It's used in the in-school environment. Just keep in mind, it's meant for middle school students.
But we're talking there about customers. Well, what about investors, which is a different
category? Oh, investors? No, I don't think we're looking for investors. We're looking for partnerships. And, we're happy to have many partners around the country.
Josh Snyderman from Learning Blade, thanks so much for explaining your important work to my listener.
Thank you.
This is David Tulis. Josh Snyderman runs Learning Blade. It's a tech startup that is trying to get students interested in STEM education, public school students largely, and even homeschoolers and students in the private sector. We're brought to you by Superior Air Systems at 886-6602. Bill Keith and his men drive around in the big orange vans, and they're there to take care of you. And we are AM 1240 Hot News Talk Radio. I'm trying to become the #1 host here, but I've got intense competition. And the competition has just gotten very, very hard right now because we're bringing aboard Colin Cowherd, the Rush Limbaugh of the sports world. His name is Colin Cowherd, and he's on just ahead. This is David Tulis.
I like Colin Cowherd.
Woo. After another cold and frosty start, a really nice day for your Tuesday. A little warmer later on with lots of sun, highs upper 50s. Tonight, not as cold, lows lower to middle 30s. For Wednesday, mostly sunny. Warm up continues, highs of around 60. Continue dry and pleasant through Thanksgiving. Cold nights are back, so keep you and your family toasty warm all winter with Dodge City Ski Shop, featuring the largest selection of cold weather clothing around at Dodge City, East Brainerd Road, Chattanooga. And I'm 1412 Chief Meteorologist Patrick Hoare on AM 1240 Hot News Talk Radio.
You give us 12 minutes and 40 seconds, we'll give you Chattanooga and the world.
News Talk 1240.
I love my Flex loan from Advance Financial. I needed cash, I needed it fast, and I didn't want to get a payday loan. My Flex loan from Advanced Financial is not a payday loan. It's a line of credit. I only pay for the cash I need, and I only pay for the time that I need it. There's no lump sum payment. My Advanced Financial Flex loan is an open line of credit, and I can get cash anytime I need it.
Visit one of our 24/7